Initially, it was my research really was into autoimmune and holistic strategies and kind of diving into more of the lifestyle modifications and just really trying to figure out the root cause. And as you know, it's a puzzle. You're trying to solve a puzzle and there's many different pieces to it. But for me, I'm a very quick start kind of mindset. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm all in. And I stumbled across the autoimmune paleo protocol, which is an AIP diet, which is a very therapeutic type based diet, very restrictive, removing a lot of inflammatory foods. And I thought, you know what? I'm all in. I'm going to do it.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. Do you know somebody with autoimmune disease? Well, autoimmune conditions affect all parts of our body, from our thyroid to our nervous system to our blood vessels to our liver. Every tissue in the body can be subject to an autoimmune condition. So if you have an autoimmune condition or know somebody who does, you will want to listen to this podcast because it really kind of dives into some of the root causes of it and actually how to either completely reverse it or improve the symptoms of autoimmune conditions drastically. Now, before we get into the podcast, let me welcome in all the new people. Thank you for being magnetized or attracted to this podcast. We really love to see our community grow, and thank you for being new. And for all of you who have been a loyal listener of this podcast, thank you for being a part of the journey, for helping us grow. And if this podcast is giving you value along the way, please help it grow by doing the following: subscribing to the podcast, commenting and engaging in the content, giving it a thumbs up, turning on notifications, and then sharing the podcast with your friends and family members, because that is going to really allow us to grow, have better guests on the podcast, and to continue to deliver content to you. That would be a big, big favor to me. Also, almost forgot, leave us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. And because you are helping the podcast grow, I want to give you 2 free resources if you haven't gotten it already. Number 1 being a bundle of longevity and performance resources that includes the Thrive State Resource Guide, a Thrive to 105 ebook, breathwork exercises that will get you in state, whether you need to calm down your stress or increase your energy when you really need to perform. Also, you're going to get the frameworks and lecture notes that I give in my global keynote talks. You can get all that as a bundle for free by going to thrivestatestarter.com. And also, if you have been checking out our new mythrivestate.com website, you'll know that we have a digital library there that includes multiple courses, a mental health academy, an accelerator course, an activator course. And in the accelerator course is really 10 weeks where we show you how to make and break habits and how to build that in 7 key areas of your life so that you could have more optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. What's the free thing we're going to give you? We're going to give you a toolkit where we give you basically all the worksheets, all the journal prompts, and resources from the accelerator course delivered right to your inbox. Basically 10 modules. You get all of that work for free by going to mythrivestate.com/toolkit. These 2 resources are my gift to you for being such a loyal listener and for helping promote the cause of Thrive State. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now on to today's guest. We are honored to have Noelle Creamer here on the Thrive State podcast. She is the inspiring founder of Brightly Thrive, the autoimmunity community, where she transformed the isolation often felt by individuals with autoimmune disease into a sense of belonging and support. Look, autoimmune disease is something that is increasing in its incidence across not only the US, but around the world. And unfortunately, these numbers continue to go up, even though it's a disease we can truly manage ourselves. You're going to find out a little bit about the root causes of the disease, what we can start to do to mitigate the symptoms and potentially even reverse this disease altogether. You're going to find out this podcast will really give you hope. And certainly, if you're somebody that has autoimmune disease or know of somebody with autoimmune disease, Noelle Creamer has created a very unique community where people with autoimmune disease of all types can really kind of get together in different stages of their awakening and their treatment process to really kind of hold your hand to let you know that you're not alone. So certainly if you are somebody that has this condition or know of somebody, you'll want to listen to this podcast and share this podcast with your friends and family members. Now, a little bit more about our host. Noelle has a background in consulting for Fortune 500 companies, and she took a pivotal turn when she was diagnosed with granulomatosis with polyangiitis at the age of 39. This diagnosis ignited a profound personal evolution, leading her to achieve board certification in health and wellness at Duke University. Noelle is not only an advocate, but also a testament to the healing power of community, of wellness, and of resilience. Her mission through Brightly Thrive is to create an oasis of understanding, health, wellness, and vitality, proving that together we can thrive despite the challenges that we face. So, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this conversation with myself and Noelle Creamer. Noelle Creamer, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You represent a human being and soul. So many people know the phrase, turning our pain into our purpose, and you are definitely that. But before we get into your story and the amazing work that you currently do, there is almost a gauntlet, almost a rite of passage into the conversation of the Thrive State, which is the 5 to Thrive, 5 quick questions to get to know you better, 1,000 points each. And if you do win, a autoimmune plus meal on me will be delivered to you. So are you ready to play the 5 to Thrive?
I'm ready to play.
Here we go. Question number 1 for you is, do you have a hidden talent that might surprise us?
A hidden talent. Unfortunately, not really. I would say I love to organize. Okay.
That is a huge talent, and it's a talent I do not have. So, I mean, I always call that a superpower. So,
yes, a superpower.
Congratulations.
Love to organize, love to color code, all the things from the sock drawer to the spice rack and everything in between. So
yeah, that's one person's kryptonite is your superpower and talent organizing. That's great. 1,000 points there. Question number 2 is, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Ooh, one of my favorite childhood memories is probably just camping with my family. Grew up in Illinois, so we did a lot of camping.
Oh, nice. I didn't know Illinois was a camping state, but very good. 2,000 points there. Question number 3 is, if you could travel anywhere in the world that you have not been to yet, where would it be and why?
It would be Africa, because I'm a huge animal lover.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely.
Yes, a safari is on my bucket list. And excuse me, you not only get 1,000 points there, but you win a sneeze that's coming in probably a second or two. Yeah, I was just out having a little bit of allergies. 3,000 points so far. Question number 4 would be, if you had a superpower for a day, what would it be and how would you use it?
Okay, so my superpower would be, besides my immense organization skills, would probably be, I'd want a superpower that could benefit the world in some way. So I would say it would be to instill, I think, self-confidence and self-esteem in every single human being on the planet.
Wow, that would be a superpower. And I would want you to save me every time I go on stage. There's always still a little bit of imposter syndrome. So thank you for that. 4,000 points. She might win the 5 to Thrive after answering question number 5, which would be, what guilty pleasure do you have that you reach out for when you're feeling stressed or have a bad day?
Guilty pleasure that I reach out for when I'm stressed or having a bad day would probably be trashy reality TV.
Oh, you and my lady would get along so well.
Yeah.
5,000 points there, which means a autoimmune approved meal on me the next time we meet. And being that we're both in the health space, there's probably some health conference we will meet at some point. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take us back now to 39. What was life maybe in your 20s and 30s like in terms of your energy and your vibrancy? And
Mhm.
tell us what were the things leading up in the initial symptoms, and we don't have to give the diagnosis yet, but what were those initial symptoms that you were feeling that finally gave you the diagnosis and test that you got?
Yeah, so I was 39 at the time and was living a very, what I thought, pretty active and healthy life. Although I was running my own business, very busy, traveling the country, doing all the things. And my husband and I were actually took a trip to London and we were there for a month. We decided to work remotely for a month. And towards the end of that month, I started to experience some random symptoms out of the blue, a lot of symptoms in my sinuses. And I thought maybe it's just because we're in a different environment. Maybe it's the bus smog in London, who knows, right? So I wasn't really that concerned. And then, flew home, came home, and things just started to get progressively worse. It was almost like my body just kind of started to go haywire, had, started to get these nosebleeds out of the blue, very like unsexy symptoms, just would be standing in the grocery store and, people would be staring at me. And all of a sudden I've had this gushing, nosebleed, lots of night sweats. And then eventually the fatigue started to set in. And I had never experienced anything like that in my life. And it was just difficult to even go from just one room of my house to the next.
Mm.
And one morning, this went on for a good couple of months, and I was taking some over-the-counter medication. I thought that it was just some sinus thing going on. I really wasn't sure. And then one morning I woke up and had completely lost my hearing. And that was terrifying. And I knew that something then was definitely wrong. Couldn't walk because I had lost my equilibrium. My husband got me to the hospital and I was admitted to the ER. And they then didn't know what was wrong with me either.
Yeah, you got the autoimmune diagnosis of granulomatosis with polyangiitis, which was really an inflammatory condition of the blood vessels that leaves these granulomas or a way the body tissue heals with granulomas. And so it was happening in different areas of your body. Obviously, or not obviously, but that's something that normally isn't picked up in the ER. So
Right.
from there, what did they do? They probably said, okay, well, she's not dying on us at this moment, but we don't know what it is. Where did they send you next, and how did they finally arrive to the diagnosis? Which type of doctors actually pinpointed that diagnosis for you?
Yeah, so they basically discharged me with a prescription for some steroids, which made me feel a little bit better. I was able to kind of get through the day, but they didn't have a diagnosis. They told me to go see my doctor, and I ended up getting a referral from a friend for an ENT here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was able to get into him fairly quickly. And I credit him for really saving my life because he was able to connect the dots and make the diagnosis of GPA through a visual inspection and then sending me for labs. And for an ENT to be able to make that diagnosis it was pretty profound. And he knew exactly what it was right away and then got the diagnosis the next day. And to be honest, I didn't even know what autoimmune was. I had never heard of it. I did not have anyone that I knew that had autoimmune, and I certainly didn't know what vasculitis was or GPA was. And it was a pretty scary and overwhelming time for sure.
Was it a diagnosis he got off of a biopsy or off of laboratory studies only?
Laboratories and just a visual inspection of seeing everything that was going on with my hearing and my sinuses.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this really kind of puts us on the whole spectrum of autoimmune disease. And for anyone who isn't aware of what autoimmune is, it's really a disease of your immune cells being dysregulated, where they start to recognize parts of your own body as being foreign and starts attacking it. And it could happen in your blood vessels where you can have polyangiitis or a different type of vasculitis. It can happen in your thyroid and it's called thyroiditis. And certainly there's autoimmune conditions for your liver, for your pancreas, basically any tissue in the body. But I think what the discussion we're going to have today is the commonality of all these autoimmune conditions and why they're becoming more and more rampant as over the years is one of these huge diagnoses. Now, once you got the diagnosis, he was probably a conventional medical doctor. Did he
Mhm.
send you to a rheumatologist or was that the next part? Okay, let's take you to the journey there because this is something in conventional medicine where, okay, once you get a autoimmune diagnosis, a rheumatologist is where you go. And let's just see what happened when you went to the rheumatologist.
Yep, exactly right. Got the diagnosis, got the referral to rheumatologist, went to see the rheumatologist and kind of asked me some brief information about my symptoms, did not explain to me what the disease was, couldn't answer my questions. I wanted to know why this was happening to me, could not give me that answer. And basically, you're in and out within an average of 13 minutes, and there's a playbook, and they're just looking for that medication to start treatment, which is basically what I got. There was never a discussion about anything related to the root cause of why this was happening to my body. And there was really not a lot of empathy too, to be honest with you, because I remember crying in the office because I was super terrified and very overwhelmed because I obviously went down the rabbit hole that is Google and was researching all about GPA. And I even joined a couple Facebook groups of other patients who had this, and it was terrifying because people were like dying in these groups, and it was just very doom and gloom. And I was just in the office and I was, crying, and my doctor looked at me and said, "Well, at least you don't have cancer." And that was the response I got. And so when I left, that really kind of set a fire in me to figure out, okay, what is happening to my body? Why is this happening to me? And that's when I really started to transform my life.
That's beautiful. Now, probably when you left there, they sent you home with some steroids and probably some immunosuppressants. Like, let's calm down the immune system. And certainly the risk of doing so is like your blood sugar goes up from the steroids, all the fat you gain from the steroids. You're not able to fight off infections very well because you're on all these immunosuppressants. So all of those things come part and parcel with maybe the conventional way of treating immune disease. You know, healthcare is broken, and I'm going to stand on a pedestal just for 1 second. As much as I would like to say that doctor sucked, and probably I'm not going to explicitly say it, but doctors unfortunately belong to a healthcare system, got trained in a healthcare system where they looked at disease a certain way, and also because of how the insurance payer mix is set up that you only have so much time to deal with each patient. And because of that, most of them are burnt out when they see you. They don't even know what root causes of disease are and will probably just try to help you as best as they can, but they're burnt out and also ignorant to the stuff that they fed us in medical school, which doesn't apply to every single thing. So anyway, wishing that person very well. But you went off on a tangent and decided, okay, I'm not just going to take these steroids and immunosuppressants. Now, is that something you did initially just for symptom control and did it?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I went through a pretty aggressive treatment of steroids and some chemotherapy type drugs, some series of infusions, the whole thing, because I needed to get myself to a place where I could then start to make changes in my life and start to apply different things to support my health. And I'm grateful for conventional medicine in that aspect, in that kind of emergency situations. Yeah, but I went through the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think you bring a great use case is, great acute symptom control. And then that gives you time to start asking why. So tell me, you Dr. Googled yourself, which we tell people not to do, but probably you stumbled on something and potentially something that brought you hope and optimism. What did you find initially?
Initially it was my research really was into autoimmune and holistic strategies and kind of diving into more of the lifestyle modifications and just really trying to figure out the root cause. And as you know, it's a puzzle. You're trying to solve a puzzle and there's many different pieces to it. But for me, I'm a very quick start kind of mindset. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm all in. And I stumbled across the autoimmune paleo protocol, which is an AIP diet, which is a very therapeutic type based diet, very restrictive, removing a lot of inflammatory foods. And I thought, you know what? I'm all in. I'm going to do it. And so I did. I did that for about 9 months. And I tell you what, I never felt better. I started to just feel so good. And I even brought it up to my rheumatologist, which, by the way, I switched rheumatologists from the original rheumatologist, and now I have a very supportive one. But even brought it up to him, and he was very encouraging in that aspect as well. And then just from there, it just was on to the next thing. Like, what else can I do? What else can I do to support my body? What things can I let go of too? There was a lot that I needed to let go and say goodbye to.
Yeah, let's just focus first in terms of what you did in terms of diet, because what we do understand is so much autoimmune condition has a gut relationship. And how that is normally our gut lining has these tight junctions that keeps everything that's supposed to be in your gut and not floating around in the bloodstream kind of going in. But what happens is, people have different sensitivities and tolerance to different type of things. And if you're super stressed out, it also weakens the lining of your gut. So all these things form something called a leaky gut, where the foods that you eat in particles might actually circle into your bloodstream. When that happens, you've got about 70 to 80% of your immune cells lining your gut going, okay, there's something else. Bad guys are coming in. So they'll get alerted, but they'll just get alerted by non-toxic stuff. And unfortunately, once you kind of turn on the police, and you wake them up, sometimes they go off and they start shooting off things that are normally your body. And so that's how a leaky gut can lead to a dysregulated immune system, which can start attacking your own body. So, and then basically all autoimmune diseases can happen this way, because when you have something that attacks your thyroid, like we mentioned, you've got thyroiditis and basically every single organ.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves, and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed, and please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
So that's why you mentioned going on this sort of restrictive diet, you were able to eliminate at least something that was there. So after going on this diet, did you narrow things up a little bit more, or did you find a culprit and then start to be able to slowly insert kind of new ingredients back into your life?
I did. Yeah. For me, there's certain ingredients that I know I just have to stay away from. The biggest one for me was caffeine, and I went cold turkey on caffeine. I just don't drink caffeine. Alcohol, the same thing. But since I went on the AIP diet for about 9 months, and then I slowly started to do that's a whole process in itself of just journaling and paying attention to your body and listening to your body and its reactions. And there was handful of different foods that I probably won't be able to eat ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. And it's okay, because there's a whole other list of foods that are totally acceptable and healthy and nutritious, and foods that I enjoy. So for me, in the beginning, it was a bit of a challenge until it wasn't.
Yeah, it's really finding that new normal. And one of the things I say in my book, Thrive State, if you don't feel great, eliminate, because so much disease starts because your gut's just not working very well. And some people can do like just a full-on elimination diet that takes out a lot of the offending, big time offenders first, including gluten, wheat, soy, corn, things of that nature, and then go on that for a while, see if it feels better. Because if it does, it might suggest that it's something in the gut. But like you were saying, you don't have to be on that diet for life. And then from there, you work with a doctor. Most likely functional doctors are a little bit more trained in this type of treatment, and then slowly start adding in foods and just seeing how your body responds. So that's been great.
Yeah, that's
One of
been,
the other things you mentioned, which I think is so important, is that journaling aspect. One, particularly when you have an autoimmune disease, not only helps you understand what the day looks like and maybe when those flares come up. And so you could start to say, oh, I ate this and then this happened at this point. The journaling process also is great for stress management. And
yes.
what we do understand is when you get stressed out, when you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, or if your body thinks that you are, they're going to divert all the blood flow to your skeletal muscles because you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. It's basically going to contract the blood flow to your visceral organs. And what that does is it actually causes the mucus in your gut lining to not be as present. And you're going to lose on that mucus protection, which is more prone for people to have leaky gut. So that's why stress is so important too. And as you dove in a little bit deeper, what were the other things that you found to be a little bit more contributive to your health and wellness?
For me, it was really just dialing in all of my like foundational things, the diet, eliminating the inflammatory things from my life. Definitely managing stress was a big one for me. I took a year off and just focused solely on my health. I took up a yoga practice literally the same week that I was diagnosed because I knew I needed help with stress. Eventually became a yoga certified, and that's been a big part of my life. Managing my sleep, getting my sleep dialed in. And then really the second half of my journey has been diving into the emotional aspect and really kind of working through a lot of the childhood trauma and some of those things. That's been massively profound.
People don't understand that there is the adverse childhood event study that released in San Francisco that demonstrated that the people that had more childhood traumas growing up, and they really looked at just big T traumas, divorce, drugs, neglect, different types of abuse, 10 of them. And the higher score that you had later on in life, you would have more mental health issues, but not only mental health issues, physical health issues as well. And they only looked at big T traumas. Now we're starting to understand the traumas of not being seen, not being heard, not being able to express who you are as a child also has those links. Now, why is that? So we're starting to understand that, growing up with these traumas, it really formulates and is associated with a part of our brain called the default mode network, which becomes our stress and survival mode. It becomes our ego, so to speak. And so we have all these adaptive behaviors, masks that we put on because of our trauma, and we live life through those masks. And unfortunately, those masks are always looking through a lens of fear and danger. And guess what? When you're looking through that lens of fear and danger, you are basically essentially a person running from a saber-toothed tiger, not just when a saber-toothed tiger is around, but the entire time, which raises inflammation, drops your immunity, putting you prone to chronic symptoms of chronic disease. And so that's why there's such a strong link. And I'm so glad you shared that. So not only did you do all the get certified in yoga, but you also got certified in health and wellness from Duke University as well. What prompted you to go further in your education here?
Yeah, it was back when I was diagnosed and I went down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out what the root cause was of this autoimmune issue. And I literally came across an ad for health coaching and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That might be something I want to do. And wasn't thinking that I would do it as professionally, but more just to further my learning and my knowledge. And I enrolled and became a board certified health and wellness coach and got a handful of other certifications in different niches. And it's just been, it's been great.
Was your autoimmune condition a gift?
Absolutely. 1000%.
And why is that?
It's changed everything in my life. It's given me a new purpose. It's given me a new direction. It's awakened me to so many things. And it's created a ripple effect with those around me, my family, my immediate family, friends. When you go on a health journey and you go on a transformation, you can't help but want to share that with everyone around you and share what you're learning and what you're going through.
Yeah. I had diabetes, high blood pressure, and on prescription medications 8 years ago. And it was a wake-up call too. It was really just a signal from our body going, hey, you're not living life as you. And then you start to discover, oh my God, have I been consciously living my life? Or no, there's maybe trauma in my past that has made me make choices in how I sleep, eat, move, how I relate with people, whether or not I'm constantly in states of stress or I'm giving, all these things that either creates a state of stress in our body or state creates the thrive state in our body once we start to make conscious choices. So this disease process, and I would probably say any challenge or struggle we're going with is maybe a gift for us to really pause and look at how we might be living life. And it's a gift to start to reawaken to who you really are. And I want to point out the parallels because I wrote my book Thrive State, and I went through the process and the pillars of, I looked at people who lived over 100 years, highest performing populations, and I look at what you just did with autoimmune disease. I look at what I did with diabetes. I looked at how some cancer patients responded. That if you start focusing on your sleep, your nutrition, how you move, the emotions that you feel every day, the thoughts that you're focused on every day, how your relationships are and how healthy they are, and whether or not we feel that sense of purpose where we're feeling connected, that we have something to give. Those things are the basic things that I think once you address those things, your symptoms, if you have any of those things, will be highly controlled. Those are basically the root causes. The choices, conscious or unconscious, that we're making in those areas of life are basically the root causes of a lot of things. Now, the things we don't control as well, like infections or toxins that are in our bodies that we should test for, but those are the basics. Those are the things you can control. And no matter what disease you have, I'm so glad you came on and you talked about autoimmune disease and you talked about the same basic things here, which is why I feel the doctor of the future is really you being more attuned to your body and asking yourself how you're living your life in these 7 areas. So thank you for that. And speaking of community, of the things that has turned your pain into purpose, is creating this beautiful autoimmune community. Can you talk about Brightly Thrive?
Sure. So Brightly Thrive is, well, as our tagline implies, we are the autoimmunity community, and we are a social app and virtual platform for those dealing with autoimmune conditions. It's really a space where, members can connect with each other, members can connect with a team of health and wellness experts. They can share their stories, share their experiences, what they're dealing with, and most importantly, they can find strategies and find support in how to heal their body.
That was so important. Now, obviously, it didn't exist before you created it, but how did you find community when you were first going through this process?
That's just it. Brightly Thrive is the community that I wish I had when I was first diagnosed. Really, there was nothing, like I said before. I joined a handful of Facebook groups that I had found dealing with autoimmune, dealing with GPA and vasculitis and things like that. And they were just very overwhelming, very doom and gloom, not really supportive. It was just a lot of people that were just not awakened that can be a gift. It can be that catalyst that transform your life. And for me, my autoimmune diagnosis was it was a lonely time. Like I said, there was no one in my life that had autoimmune that I knew of. And of course, my friends and family were supportive, but they have lives too. Their lives go on. And I'm there trying to make these changes. I'm going through this different phase of my life and experiencing all these different things and wanting to share that with someone who understood that same journey. That's why Brightly Thrive exists.
It's such an important thing, not only to be in a community where people are actually going through the process, but in different stages of the process. So understanding that you are not alone
Right.
is such powerful medicine for people. And so for anyone who might be newly diagnosed with autoimmune disease or know of somebody who's been recently diagnosed, what would be your message to that person?
Oh, my message would be that autoimmune disease is not in the driver's seat. Really, you are in the driver's seat. And I think probably a lot of your listeners are probably wondering, what's the thing I can do? What are the steps I can take? And again, it really does take a multifaceted approach. There's so many different pieces to solve, but I would say to take it one day at a time, not get overwhelmed, because you can get overwhelmed thinking you have to make all these changes all at once. And that's not the case. You can start to make small gradual shifts in your life to support your health and to build those habits, and know that there's communities out there like Brightly Thrive that exist, and there's people out there that are going through similar challenges that you can connect with so that you have that support on your journey.
Now, you probably have lots of people in your community. What would you say is the prognosis for people with autoimmune? Would you say that everyone could potentially be cured, or at least maybe reduce their symptoms a lot and might need some breakthrough stuff? How would you give somebody, now that so many people with autoimmune disease, their prognosis?
Yeah, I do believe that we can heal our bodies. Our bodies are not meant to be in a state of dis-ease. We're meant to be healthy and thriving and vibrant. And I do believe the body can heal itself as long as you're doing the things that you need to do to support it, or at least, like you said, get close to that point to where you're improving your symptoms, you're eliminating a lot of symptoms, and you're able to just enjoy life and live life to the fullest.
Well, that's such a story of hope. And I would recommend certainly anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you know of somebody with autoimmune disease who might just be along the conventional medicine treadmill that is looking for some new hope, to share this podcast with them, and certainly share Brightly Thrive, the autoimmunity community. Man, that is catchy. That is super catchy. But if people want to know a little bit more about your work and what you do, how do they find out more about you? How they join the community? And I think we're going to give them a special link so that they can join the community as well, correct?
That's right. Yes, they can just go to brightlythrive.com and all of our information is there. You'll find more about the community. You can find out more about our team of health and wellness experts. We've got some free resources there that you can check out, and a lot of fun things.
All right. Awesome. This has been such an inspirational conversation. And I think what one person can pick from this is truly the things that we think might be happening to us might really be the thing that's happening for us to be able to awaken us to who we are meant to be in this world. And thanks for sharing that. And with everything that you've done in terms of in the health space yourself, what has been your best medicine?
Community, number one. Yeah, community and support.
Beautiful. Noelle Creamer, thank you so much for your wisdom, for being so vulnerable with us and sharing your story. I know it's going to inspire so many people to take some action and help others. So appreciate your time, your wisdom, and for being with us on the Thrive State podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. V. Thanks for the experience.
I hope you enjoy that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you subscribe to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breath work, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How do you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.